The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good evening, my friends, and happy Friday. I am Erica Lukes, and always a pleasure to be here and warm you up for a fantastic night on KCOR. It is Fantopia Friday, so that means you get 3 strong, brilliant women here. Well, I'll just throw that out there about myself, but Tina Marie and Solaris Blue Raven have shows tonight, so you've got to stick around. I'll be telling you more about their shows in a little bit. You won't want to miss it. First, here's some news in my world. As always, I have an exciting week. I get to talk to lots of really intelligent, forward-thinking researchers in the field that I love so much and have dedicated my life to. One of those people is my friend Nick Redfern, who was kind enough to send me his new book, Weapons of the Gods, and I just wanted to give a little shout out to him and thank him. He always does that, and he always inscribes the book, and it means a lot to me. Nick is a wonderful man, and he'll be on my show or Tina Marie's show coming up pretty quick, so you can catch that, and we'll keep you posted. I am going to be speaking at the StarWorks Symposium in Laughlin, Nevada in November 11th through the 13th. And I will be talking about UFO organizations, MUFON. I will be talking about my research as an independent researcher. I was also asked a couple days ago to speak at another big conference, and I am absolutely delighted that I will have the opportunity to speak about my Orange Orb research project, which has far-reaching implications. So I will keep you posted. Very exciting news for me this week. I want to thank all of you from all over the world for listening to my show. You are the reason that I'm here, because I believe it's important, as you do too, that we learn as much as we can about this elusive phenomenon, and we need to have a cohesive unit where we can really share information and educate humanity with regards to this, hopefully break down a few belief systems along the way. My guest tonight is somebody who I hold in very, very high regard. In my Orange Orb research, I have found a very small handful of people and organizations that I hold to high regard, because there is just not a lot of great information, a lot of dedicated research with regards to UAP. NARCAP is one of those organizations, and Ted Rowe is one of those people. Ted Rowe is the executive director for NARCAP, which was founded in 1999 by Ted Rowe and science chief Dr. Richard Haynes. This is an organization that you need to know about, and if you don't know about it, please go to your computers, look at the brilliant work they've done, and also donate to NARCAP. It's narcap.org. NARCAP is a reporting center for U.S. pilots and aviation professionals, where they can go to report observations in aviation safety related incidents involving UAP or unidentified aerial phenomenon. NARCAP investigates and researches pilot reports that may involve UAP, and then they work with other scientific organizations to develop better research strategies and data collections. NARCAP has formal research agreements with the Chilean government, and they also work with other governments. And I'm going to have Ted talk a little bit more about this great work. And Ted Rowe is, like I was saying, he's just a really cool guy. He is sitting right now in his car overlooking the beautiful beach in Hawaii. He is a brilliant photographer. He's a free diver. He practices martial arts and teaches martial arts and meditation. And he also is a contributor, a very important contributor to several scientific studies of UAP and aviation safety. His work as a photographer has been in National Geographic and the National Park Service. So Ted, I am so excited to have you here tonight.
Well, thank you, Erica. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to talking to you and your audience more about NARCAP and anything else you'd like to bring up.
Oh, well, that could be scary for you. I'll try to contain myself, but, that might be it's a little overrated.
Hey, let's just go where consciousness leads us.
Exactly. So I have to live vicariously through you right now, because I know you are looking at a breathtaking view. Tell us what you're looking at.
Well, I'm at Laipahoehoe Point on the north shore of the Big Island of Hawaii, and it's kind of a rugged spot, windy and high cliffs around me. Waipio Valley is to my left a few miles, which is a very rugged and mountainous place, and surrounded by green and blue ocean, and kind of a rugged shoreline here with some fairly big breakers rolling up on it. So,
wow.
Yes.
Every time I talk to you, you're either swimming with dolphins or you're meditating, you're doing so many wonderful things, and it just sounds like you have a really wonderful life. And I wish I was there on the ocean. I love the ocean.
Hey, I wish you were here too. It's a beautiful place, and you just got to do what works. And I found that working with this UAP study, it's really important to ground yourself in meditative practice. Otherwise, you just get pulled off track. It's a rational study. The way to be rational is to train your awareness, and so I spend time doing that.
And that's really important. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about how you formed NARCAP with Dr. Haynes, how that came about.
Well, let's get this straight. Dr. Haynes formed NARCAP with me. He invited me to help him create an organization to document aviation safety-related cases involving unidentified aerial phenomena. And so he literally came to me and asked me about it one day. We were friends, and the rest is kind of history. I just got it in gear, started setting up the documents for creating an organization, and setting our standards and practices so that we'd be able to function. We had to do some analysis of the UFO paradigm to see what was good and what wasn't about it, and make sure we steered our organization carefully with respect to image, and that's what we've done ever since. We participated in a government hearing that most people probably don't know about. We did some work with Podesta's group back in 2004. Of course, he's in the news now as Hillary's campaign manager.
And that's incredible because, the Hillary Clinton, I was talking about her appearance on Jimmy Kimmel last week, and it was very funny to know a little bit of the backstory with regards to her referencing UAP. And if you don't mind to share with us the story that you told me the other day.
Well, there's been a pursuit of a UAP over restricted airspace over the nation's capital. The Air Force had pursued it, and there have been some witnesses on the ground, and that came to the attention of Representative Tom Davis, who at the time was the head of the Committee on Government Reform, and he had some questions about it. So he talked to Podesta's group, and they organized some of us to brief congressmen and their aides on what was understood about UAP at the time. We had adopted the term UAP at NARCAP at our inception, and it wasn't in popular use at the time in ufology in general, at least in the West. And Dr. Haynes actually wrote a definition for it in 1980, which we have adopted and lived by ever since. So that terminology was exposed to Podesta's group pretty early on, and of course, Hillary was talking about what the new term UAP is versus UFO, and how she's determined to get to the bottom of it. So the information carried from those initial meetings back in 2003.
And that is it's really neat to hear that and to know that you and Dr. Haynes had something to do with that, and that you have worked with Podesta, because Podesta has been, as we know, he's been pretty vocal about wanting to get to the bottom of this. And that's great. We need more people like that.
Well, yeah, I think so. It was kind of telling, and when we brought our documents, Dr. Michio Kaku vetted a lot of our materials. He was present. I spent some time with him, and I also spoke to some aides to some of the congressmen who were eventually briefed by Dr. Haynes and Dr. Valee. And a lot of those conversations were basically sitting and listening to their stories of their family members or themselves talking about unusual things they'd seen. So there's sort of a schizophrenia, a double standard, you might say, in politics, and shouldn't surprise anyone, particularly in this election cycle. But yeah, there's an irrational sort of block against talking about these things and dealing with them in a otherwise straightforward and rational way.
And that has got to be so frustrating. I know that I've listened to interviews with Dr. Haynes, and he has really talked about how that is just, it's shocking when there's so much good data that people could not want to take this seriously or look into it more.
Well, certainly, and the irrationality, I think, is symptomatic of something larger, and a lot of it has been brought on by the way our government and institutions have responded to the problem, particularly since the mid-1950s or so, 1953, 54. And it's created sort of a false environment where people feel that they can't talk about something. They feel that some subjects are verboten, forbidden, and I don't think that talking about seeing unusual things in the air should be a forbidden subject, and yet the responsible, intelligent people do see them, and occasionally they talk about them. So there's just some kind of a disconnect, a discordance, a dissonance that blocks people from speaking on this, fear, social conditions, etc.
And then I think it doesn't help that we have organizations, and that we've got in ufology, organizations that are supposed to be really scientifically studying this, and then don't, and then they also, there's so many lower level politics and things. It doesn't promote itself to really furthering research, in my opinion, and that's got to be frustrating for both of you.
Well, it is. What we did, though, we realized early on that we were going to have to take a different path. Ufology in the status quo wasn't effective. It wasn't changing the paradigm. It wasn't carrying the ball into new territory in terms of activism. It was condensing into a cottage industry of infotainment around UFOs, and that's basically what it's devolved into, as nearly as I can tell, with a few bright spots poking out. But if you're doing research, then you're not trying to draw attention to yourself inside the UFO community. You're actually trying to get the attention of people that need to look at it, look at the materials. So the UFO community doesn't look at you much. Not a lot of people know about NARCAP, but we've done a lot of things that are groundbreaking, and that just kind of tells you the nature of ufology versus the actual study of UAP.
Right. And, to me, I'm just relentless when I'm on a mission to discover things. And for me, I wanted to just soak up everything about this and learn as much as I could. And it was very interesting to me to mention, Erling Strand or Hessdalen or NARCAP, and to have people that are supposedly these top dogs in the field say, what is that? Who is that? And I just kind of sat there with my mouth hanging open, because I know what they are. I know that they're incredibly important, and so that doesn't make sense to me, but I guess that just is the way it goes. Hopefully not for too long, though.
Well, I kind of look at ufology like it's actually the panic that arose after the awareness of unidentified aerial phenomena became a global understanding that people were talking about things they were seeing in the sky, and I think a lot of people who were jolted into action on that are representative of kind of what some have warned us about, that there would be a panic or a movement of society in a way that wouldn't really be helpful because of the knowledge or the idea of the knowledge of UAP existing in our skies. And I want to be clear, UAP means unidentified aerial phenomenon. It has a very specific definition, which doesn't involve alien spaceships. However, if we were going to get to the point of saying that a UAP phenomenon is an alien spaceship, we would start by saying we saw something that we couldn't identify. So it's a careful description, and it has a specific definition.
Right.
It means that if a phenomenon remains unidentified after being examined, after all available data is examined by persons most qualified to make a determination, and yet they're unable to make one, then it is an unidentified aerial phenomenon. It isn't unidentified just because nobody knew what it was at the moment.
Right.
So,
And that there's so many areas in this field that there's so many muddied waters, and I think that it's hard because we really have to separate good research from some of the other, ET contact and the different types of groups that have evolved in ufology. And while I feel there might be some relevance to that, that has nothing to do with the research that I'm doing. And I think it muddies the waters to kind of lump everything in the same field.
Well, Dick and I became aware, it was pretty clear to us that specialization was going to be key if we wanted to get into this study at all and really kind of understand the actual situation around UAP versus what's reported about it. To actually look at the cases, let the cases talk to us, and take that data and then let it create a landscape that we can look over and try to understand. And we did that by going after aviation cases because we can use a specific skill set each time when we approach it, so that it's a consistent study, and then it can be transferred all around the world to wherever aviation cases might be reported. There are other issues, but the problem, I think, is where the extraterrestrial hypothesis sort of takes a dominant role in a researcher's perspective. And that obviously contact groups and others have already decided that some UAP are incursions by non-human intelligences. And science would call that premature. I've got kind of a double take on all of that, but we can talk more in a moment, I suppose.
Yeah, and I would love to talk more about that, but let's talk a little bit about NARCAP's role with pilots, and when a pilot submits a report, how does the case usually play out from the initial reporting to the closure of the case?
Well, if we can get a case quickly, in other words, if a pilot reports to us within a day or two that he's seen something unusual or that he felt was unusual and it needs our attention, it would give us a chance to make an FOIA request and get hard copy of the encrypted radar data and audio of any communications the pilot might have made with the control tower or other aircraft. And then from there, we make an assessment as to whether an investigation is warranted. And in our case with NARCAP, we're particularly interested in aviation safety-related cases where the pilot felt that there was risk present with the existence of something he couldn't identify. And this can be loss of separation, near-mid-air collisions, concurrent failures, temporary or permanent, of electronic systems, night blindness. It can be a number of different things. And so if a pilot has something like that to report along with his observation of something unusual, then we will engage in investigation and at least document it the best we can. And then we'll write up a paper on it, and that goes on our NARCAP research page under technical reports usually.
And I have to say that I really love the fact that you actually publish your findings. I think that this is important information for the public to know. And I wish that there were more organizations like that would be open with their findings.
Well, I think it's critical. There's, as I said earlier, there's something irrational about not being able to talk about this, and pilots are put specifically in that position. They can't communicate what it is they're dealing with. If you read the Airman Instruction Manual, the AIM Manual, the FAA is very clear that if a pilot sees a UFO, something he can't identify, the FAA doesn't want to know about it. They're referred outward to private research organizations or reporting systems. It's not, the FAA doesn't even engage the case to begin with. So this irrationality has to be compensated for somehow, and that's why NARCAP was founded.
And it's wonderful. I mean, it's interesting that the FAA wouldn't take this seriously, or they would just brush it off and send it over to, I know that they used to send it over to Bigelow, and then also to Newfork, which they still do to Newfork, but it is interesting how that happens. And I hope that changes at some point. I think NARCAP should be front and center on there.
Well, I would agree. However, we understand the nature of pilot reporting a little better, I think, than those who aren't directly dealing with it. And that is that most pilots that deal with this stuff they're more inclined to talk about it in the weeks and months after they retire than they are doing it during their careers.
Right.
And so often it's a rare thing that we get a live case, a recent case. They're not that common. The work that you and Bill did on that case recently involved the fact that you guys got on it very quickly, and that made all the difference in terms of being able to get plottable radar data and the other materials that you needed to work that case properly.
Well, we were very lucky, and we're still working on it because it is such a big case, and I feel that there are actually quite a few more cases just like that here in Utah that we'll be ready for next time that happens. But we are getting ready to go to our first break. And again, I'm thrilled to have Ted Rowe here talking about NARCAP and the important research that they've done and the groundbreaking work they are going to be doing. I'm Erica Lukes. You are listening to KCOR, the best digital network on the planet. And I want to thank all my friends in chat, namely Jeff Cox, who is my friend and partner in crime here. He was my assistant state director, and now he has joined forces with me to start a new organization here in Utah with regards to all of the things that are taking place. We are starting a database and doing all that fun stuff, so I will keep you posted on that. And we are going to talk about the FAA, how to really investigate good cases, along with some other things that I think you'll find very interesting. So, like I said, I'm Erica Lukes, and we're going to see you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this. Where'd that shot come from? Alpha 3 to Eagle 1. We've got company.
From Tate Publishing, codename Eagle Force, the saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TatePublishing.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Want to take a ride?
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Fantopia Friday. I am happy to be here tonight with somebody who is incredibly important in the research of UAP. Ted Rowe is with me. He's the executive director of NARCAP. I was saying at the beginning of my show, if you don't understand the gravity of what NARCAP has done, I encourage you to go to NARCAP's website, look at the technical reports, look at what they do with relation to aviation safety. It is incredible. And to me, this is one of the very few organizations that I would choose to really spend money supporting, and a research organization that I look to when I'm investigating and researching cases. So, Ted, welcome back from your beautiful view.
Aloha.
Aloha. Oh my gosh, we were talking about, pilots with regards to sightings and how they would report them and different things. So the FAA basically has just said, we're not going to deal with this. And so they turn it over to private organizations. What dealings have you had specifically with the FAA?
Well, we made requests to be involved in the AIM manual and been rebuffed because they don't want to play favorites. Was their argument, even though they have names and addresses and phone numbers with other organizations listed there. It just proves we're dealing with a bureaucracy. In general, we've steered clear of the FAA as far as criticism goes. It's an institutional problem, and its roots lie in the government's handling of this on several levels. And it's really not a windmill we need to tilt at as far as changing the paradigm of pilots and UAP reporting. I think that it's more important to just collect the data and do the work the best we can and work around the FAA as an organization. We have we have some support from the Aviation Safety Reporting System, which is an FAA reporting program that's non-punitive and confidential. So cases that go to the ASRS end up being referred to us if they fit our profile of interest. So it isn't like a complete disconnect. A number of people on our staff have been involved in aviation and aviation safety programs through NASA as well. So we're not completely disconnected from the ideas that the government isn't interested in all of this thing. It's just is kind of how it expresses that interest.
So, you do work with other governmental agencies, and it's interesting to me to see how when you go outside of the United States, there's a much more open mind with regards to research. And, that I think that is just fascinating to me. And I hope that at some point in time, we'll be able to take it we will be able to respect it like we should here and talk about it. But tell me a little bit about your involvement with other governments and their work.
Well, sure. As we stayed focused on the subject of UAP and engaging it in a careful and rational way through the fairly narrow lens of aviation safety, other organizations that are also science-oriented started taking notice of our work and started seeking affiliations with us. The first one was CEFA, which was the Chilean government's research team studying anomalous aerial phenomena. And that was in 2010. I signed a research agreement with them. And we've done some sort of peer review work with them on some of their cases and studies. We've also got informal but positive relationships with GPAN, CNES, which is the French Space Agency's research group studying unidentified aerial phenomena. I just signed a research agreement. This is a scoop for you, Erica. I just signed a research agreement with 3AF Sigma II, and their executive director, Luke Binney, of the Sigma II.
Oh, that is great. Oh my gosh, congratulations.
So that's a big thing, and it's indicative of a larger process of science trying to come together. I mean, these groups understand that we need peer review, that we're looking at different types of things that are challenging, and so we're all trying to sort of pull together and bring our different talents into focus through affiliation.
Oh, that is
and I
so
think there's
profound.
some opportunities. I think there's some opportunities for the future here, too, as well as beyond organizations being organized, we can organize the organizations.
That would, you are a brave man. That's all I'm going to say. But I also think, though, that you have a very methodical approach to this. And I think that's great. And you've also been around long enough that you understand the politics and you know where you don't want to go and where you shouldn't go, and you know where you're going to go that will be most effective for this, and that's a great thing.
Well, that kind of clarity took a while to develop. The main thing was holding integrity to the study. The study is of unidentified aerial phenomena. It's not of alien spacecraft coming to Earth. It's not a study of alien abductions or anything else. It's a study of unidentified aerial phenomena and trying to understand what the scope of it is. For example, we have 5 or 6 countries that have released files on their UFO encounters, and they've all said these things don't really add up to anything, and yet there's no comparative analysis between all these data sets, so really nobody knows whether what was seen in England is the same thing was reported during Project Blue Book, which was reported, to the Chilean government, which was reported to the French, et cetera, et cetera. There's not been any comparison like that. So, what you're looking for is a rational line of logic, a clear progression. This question led to this question, which led to this question, and you can see where that logic breaks, and there's irrationality involved. And that's when you start wondering, okay, what was the source of this irrationality? How come academics aren't allowed to talk about this, but they can talk about everything else?
Right.
Why aren't they allowed to talk about this? And so on. So you look at these, and then you say, okay, how do you overcome this? well, and it was like I was telling you the other night that if you're discussing the possibility that some UAP might be incursions by extraterrestrial intelligences, and somebody at the other end of the table says, well, it's not possible because special relativity says it's not possible. That doesn't really resolve the case. It's an opinion about what you might be suggesting as a conclusion, but it's not engaging the case itself and resolving what the case itself meant. And I think that's where the answers lie. That's where rational minds go, is follow that line until you get to the solution. And whatever it is, however fantastic and mundane it turns out to be, that's the answer.
Yes. So that is common sense. And that is, I wish everybody else could adopt that thinking.
It takes discipline, Erica. You have to train yourself to be critical. And for a lot of us, the cart is kind of before the horse, because we've seen something that was fairly unambiguous, and yet we're in a paradigm that tells us we can't just say what we saw.
Yes.
So now we're in this sort of schizophrenic experience of, on one hand, we can't talk about what we saw, but we know what we saw. It's embedded in our nervous system. And then on the other hand, if science is going to be involved with this, then we have to fit the rules of science. So again, there's that rational break I was telling you about. And what is that indicative of? And I can tell you it's indicative of the fact that this is not a scientific problem to be resolved in a vacuum as a science issue. It's a tactical problem, and it involves things that aren't necessarily we're not going to necessarily get an embarrassment of evidence on before we may have other things to think about. And that's just saying that if some of these things are what people say they are, but it creates a difficult environment to even have the conversation. As you can see, I have to tap dance around all of it, because I'm protecting the image of my organization and maintaining credibility. And yet, half of my case files involve unusual objects that aren't easily explained, along with the other half, which involve unusual lights that have unusual properties in some cases, provocative ones. So.
And speaking of, you were talking about on break one of the cases that you had where a small white ball of light flies near an airliner. And let's talk about that, because this is a great case.
Sure. This is NARCAP Technical Report 12. You can find it on the NARCAP website on our research page under Technical Reports. It involves an airliner on final approach to San Jose over San Bruno, coming in over the coastal ridge between San Jose and the Pacific Ocean. And there was a group of astronomers setting up in the evening. They had, at the time, a pretty powerful camera. It was an 8-megapixel camera in 2005, I believe it was. And they saw the airliner coming in, and they saw a small moving ball of light behind it. So they put their camera on it and took a series of photographs. And this little ball of light accelerated and pulled up underneath the tail of the airliner and paused at that point for a little bit and then broke away at an oblique angle, all of which was caught in photographs. The family that reported this allowed their name to be involved in the report and the study itself. We usually make them confidential unless people give us their permission. And nobody said gotcha yet. The study, the phenomenon itself is really puzzling. How do you explain this? It's a ball of light. It pulled up under the tail of an airliner and then it left. So what do we do with it?
And this is a great report, and I hope all of you can get to NARCAP's website to look this up, because there are some really fascinating pictures. And the analysis that you've done of the photographs, this was quite intriguing. And to me, it's intriguing because these are the types of sightings that I investigate all the time, these balls of light.
Well, they are interesting, and Dr. Richard Haynes, our chief scientist, and Dominic Weinstein, who's a member of the College of Experts at GPAN and a NARCAP international technical specialist, did a study on aviation cases involving concurrent reports of temporary or permanent failures of electronic systems. And there were 54 cases examined, and all 54 cases involved balls of light as the descripted phenomena that was present during those failings.
It's interesting, too. I just have to throw in there, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, when you're looking through the MUFON database, 60%, if not more, are balls of light.
Sure. And a significant portion of our aviation safety reports involve balls of light with dynamic trajectories, various sizes, some quite large and some quite demure, 6 inches across. So it's a common aspect of UAP reports, and I'm not really sure. It goes back to the beginning, as far as studies goes. We had balls of light going through bomber formations during World War II, and so on. So it's been consistent throughout the issue of what was then UFO studies, now UAP studies. And it needs resolution. It could be natural phenomena. It could be one of several natural phenomena that are being seen, species of ball lightning or some other type of an energetic natural phenomenon. And they're no less dangerous to aviation safety if they're natural phenomena than if they're something else.
Do you really, though, on some of these cases, though, when you have these objects behaving with seeming intelligence, that would rule out ball lightning to me. So how many cases do you get that you would suspect that would be the case, ball lightning?
Well, again, we might be dealing with rare, poorly documented natural phenomena, okay, that like this one in this technical report 12 that I'm talking about. It might be a poorly documented natural phenomenon, and it might be something else. It might be light masking an object. I don't know. I just go with what the data has in front of us. The difficulty is in actually deciding how to describe intelligent behavior. How do you write the paper that a ball of light is behaving intelligently? How do you do that? Where do you cross this threshold where that is a reasonable conclusion, or at least something to be presented in the data? Right. And that's very difficult. You can say that these things seem to demonstrate aspects of intelligence, but it doesn't emphasize it enough to create questions that need answers.
Right. And that's a good point. That's a great point, actually. But how, what is a case that you can think of that has left you speechless or just puzzled?
In our NARCAP studies, that's one of them, Technical Report 12. In the general aviation field of studies that involve aviation safety factors, I would have to say it would be the Minot 1968 B-52 case that Tom Tulane and Oral Sign Project took on. That was a terrifically well-documented case, and it either is what it is or it isn't. But the Air Force's conclusion on what it was laughable. So, in that sense, if we want to argue about extraterrestrial hypothesis, we've got plenty of cases that are provocative, and that one in particular, to me, has me wondering.
Could you describe a little bit more about the case for the listeners that don't know about it?
Sure. It was a B-52 case flying out of Minot, North Dakota. It had at the time we needed half of our Air Force in the air, and about half of that needed to be armed with nukes at any given time to face off the threat with the Russians, as we were told by our leaders. And so this plane was out flying one of its missions, and picked up something that was following behind it. They turned their gun radar on it and took photographs of their radar detections from their gun radar cameras. And then they lost their communications with the control tower at the base, and then their communications finally came up again, and they were vectored back because they were told that the object, whatever it was, had gone to ground, had landed on the ground. And so they flew past it, and the first officer stood up in his seat on the right-hand side of the cockpit and looked over the captain out the window of this thing as they went by it, and looked into it as they went by. It was so large. It was a large egg-shaped object with lights inside of it and so on. So, either you accept what your witnesses tell you and the rest of the data that would seem to be acquired concurrently, or you ignore it. And I think you ignore cases like this at your own peril.
Right.
So, in this sense, there's a disconnect between what common sense tells you, regardless of how comfortable or uncomfortable that conclusion is, and what society will allow you to talk about.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly true. And I just want to say we're getting ready to come to a break, and we've got a couple questions here from our listeners for you. And one of them is from Ted, and he's wondering, with all of your work, and we know it's groundbreaking work, have you ever run into a man in black or somebody from the government that has intimidated you?
That's an excellent question, and the answer is no. With all of our agreements, I had Chilean Air Force generals in my email. I've had all kinds of interesting situations going on, and I haven't had any kind of intrigue. Haven't experienced anything like that. And I can't really tell you why, because everybody else talks about it. But that's not happened to us.
Well, that's good.
And we do have people that have got current and former clearances. So, that's the nature of that. I don't know what to. Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, if the government came to me and said stop, I'd stop. It's just, the safety of everybody's involved here, and it's not my judgment call.
Right. Have you ever had your computer tampered with or hacked or anything?
Well, I've had some unusual things happen to my computer, but I'm not sure if I didn't do them myself.
Yes, it's never a dull moment for me in that regard. Lord, I've always got so much going on with my computer, but it is interesting, and that's something that I do hear a lot from other people, other researchers in the field, that they have their computers hacked on numerous occasions.
I've had some interesting DNS lookups, and have had a couple of incidents on my computer that had me wondering. And Stratfor is one example. Take a look for Stratfor in your root directory or in your DNS lookup, and see if they're checking in on you, because that implies somebody's paying some money to have them do that.
Oh, interesting.
So, and they'll download your website once a month, and they ostensibly they claim to do it for copyright protection, but don't kid yourself. These guys are just do your homework on Stratfor.
Okay.
That's the only one that I can point a finger to in my DNS lookup, other than the barracks in Bogota or something. So the Civil Aviation Authority in Australia. Other than that, I don't have any. I don't have any Men in Black stories to tell you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is interesting, and you do know at some level that when you're doing groundbreaking work, I mean, that you're being paid attention to. So in some way or, the other, but I think that's a great question, Ted. So thank you for asking that. And then my assistant state director who worked on the case that we're working on here had a question for you with regards to the FAA redacting a bit of audio. In our case that we're currently working on, where we've received audio and radar data from the FAA, there is a little teeny section of the audio that was redacted. Is that a common thing?
That's a good question, and I can't answer that directly. I've had issues with FAA FOIA requests, or we've had issues with FOIA requests where they've literally actually lost data. Well, we can't give that to you because we lost it, or we mishandled it, and now it's been erased, or whatever. So there have been inconsistencies in the exercise of FOIA. I'll offer your listener that. I don't have a particular incident where anything's been just edited out of the record. And we've actually looked at the records of some rather provocative incidents, and what we got was surprising and not necessarily what people expected out of it. So it can kind of go both ways. They can redact stuff, or you can find a gold mine of stuff in there that you didn't expect. So,
and that's interesting. I think in our case, we definitely received a lot more than we were expecting from the FAA. And that was wonderful. But it is curious that this little teeny section was redacted because there was, according to our witness, that he was overhearing a part of the conversation that was very crucial to this, so it's interesting. But I had a case a couple years ago where I did a FOIA request and for radar data because we had a mass sighting over the Salt Lake Valley, over the NSA, and then it was over in Boulder, Colorado the next day. And I requested radar data with the help of one of my friends, Robert Powell from MUFON, and both times we received the information back, and it was unreadable text format, which was interesting. So,
yeah. Well, that's just it. I think we all understand that our media is compromised, and that there are other aspects of our governance that is compromised with respect to the intelligence community, and I don't want to endanger anybody by being involved with things that my government thinks is dangerous. But at the same time, to the extent that I have freedom, I want to be able to exercise it.
Right.
And so these things are, they can be troubling if you think about them. Sure.
Yes. And it would just be great, if that really were the case, then it's just a simple, don't look into this. It's not, just something, but it's.
Well, there's been 55,000 cease and desist letters offered by the government, where that you can't challenge, right? The FBI calls you, said an agent's going to deliver a letter. The letter says you can't even talk to anybody about this, but you're done on this. You can't do this anymore. And I haven't heard of anybody in ufology getting one of these things. Not that they can tell you legally. But
Oh my gosh, that's a great point. We're getting ready to go to break at the top of the hour, but this has been a great hour. We've got one more to come, and it's just, we're going to get into some really heady conversations when we come back, and I'm very excited to have you here, Ted. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. It is Friday Fantopia. Stick around because the best is yet to come.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows, visit her website at UFOclassified.com. UFO Classified. UFO Classified. This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Erica Lukes and happy to be here. I'd like to thank all of my listeners all over the world for tuning in, my friends in the chat room, Wayne, Jeff, Patty. It is really wonderful to know that you're out there and you support me and the work I am doing with regards to getting information to all of you. It's too important. This is such an important subject. I am here with somebody that I respect tremendously, and I have looked to his research and his organization's research to really further my studies with regards to UAP. Ted Rowe is the co-founder and executive director of NARCAP and author and contributor to several scientific studies, most of which I've read on UAP and aviation safety. He is right now just sitting on the beach or walking down the beach the last time I heard. Are you still walking down the beach, Ted?
No, I'm back in my car now. keep the wind off the microphone, you know.
Well, dang it. I was loving that sound of the wind through the microphone and just kind of visualizing being on the beach there. It just, oh my gosh, how beautiful. It's wonderful.
Oh, it's really nice. Hamakua Coast in March, April.
Oh, I love it. Well, we're lucky enough to have one of our friends that has called in tonight, and Ruben Uriarte has been one of my dear friends, and he's been a colleague of mine at MUFON and another person that I've learned a tremendous amount from, and I'm happy to have him call in. So Ruben, welcome.
Hey there. How are you? What? It's amazing that Ted has one of the best offices in the world. I mean, what doesn't get any better than that, right? Being in Hawaii, being in the outdoors, and
Hi, Ruben. Pleasant surprise. It's good to hear your voice.
Ted, how are you? I'm so glad to connect with you guys.
It's fun to have you. So, Ruben, tell us, I've had you on the show before, and I want to have you back again because your research for decades has been really, really important, and you have worked on aviation cases yourself and have worked with Ted in the past. Tell us about some of your work with regards to aviation.
Well, the mission statement of NARCAP is very dear to me because it deals with aviation safety. And as Ted was talking about, all these particular cases may have a potential impact on the airplane, on the flight instruments, and possibly may cause the plane to crash, depending if the pilot has to take evasive maneuvers to avoid a collision. But over the years, we've come across some interesting cases, and I had the privilege of going down to Mexico. I'm telling my stories here with Ted and with Dr. Haynes to Mexico City in 2004. And there was Dr. Haynes had a meeting with an organization. I believe the acronyms are called ICAO. Ted, can you tell me what the ICAO International about
Yes, it's the UN office dealing with aviation and aviation issues. The UN ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. They set the standards and practices for aviation around the globe in 7 major action regions.
Yes, and what the world is divided up into these regions, and it just so happens that the North American region, which includes Canada, United States, and Mexico, is based out of Mexico City. Now, when we went down there, we also had an opportunity to speak with air traffic controllers and with some pilots and a number of other researchers that were there. But maybe Ted might agree with me on this one, but I think one of the most fascinating cases, and the pilot that we met with, was Carlos de los Santos. And his case was where he was flying his Piper Aztec over close to over in Mexico, going toward. I'm getting sorry. That's perfect timing. It's like
That's
having
awesome.
my cat jump on my.
Tell your daughter to get the phone.
Yeah, or my cat jumps on my laptop while I'm talking. But anyway, yeah. This particular object, though, what happened was Carlos de los Santos was flying his airplane back after dropping off some passengers in a small plane, and suddenly his plane was surrounded by these 3 small UFO or UAP discs. They were small, and they were approximately about 12 to 15 feet in diameter, and this happened on May the 3rd of 1975. Now, the reason why I bring that up Erica, is because of the research that both Noe and I have been doing strictly with the Mexico's Roswell case that happened also in August of 25th, 1974, where a small object had collided with an airplane and they crashed. So 8 months later, here you have Carlos de los Santos, who had 3 of these discs hovering around his plane, and he had no control of his airplane for approximately 18 minutes. And then frantically he was calling the air traffic controllers, telling them of his situation, yelling, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday." Now, I just have a little 30-second clip, but I would like to play it to you so you could get the idea what this poor guy was just totally terrified. But with your permission, let me play it right this year. Let's see here. He's saying, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday, I have no control of my airplane. I have 3 identified objects surrounding my plane." He repeats, "I have 3 unidentified airplane objects surrounding my plane. I have no control." He's given his position. He says, "I have no control of my plane. Do you can you read me, Mexico control?"
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing when you have that kind of evidence, and we have several other recordings from other particular ones, but that's one of my most favorite interesting cases.
Ruben, that interview, watching Dr. Haynes work with Carlos and go through that, we both photo documented that and videoed it, and it was very instructional. Yeah. He was very thorough, and I have to say, Carlos was very credible. On top of a very likable guy, he didn't have an axe to grind, and he didn't see UFOs every time he went outside. But he certainly was frank with us about what he saw and what he went through in the process. He was actually lifted above the 10,000-foot ceiling for requiring a pressurized cabin and exposed to that. And I believe that showed in his medical. Later, wasn't there an examination that kind of revealed that he'd been exposed to very low pressure?
Well, his concern was they were going to take him up to above 15. He was nearing the 15,000 feet, and he was concerned that he was going to pass out from axis. Can't pronounce it. Axis.
Right.
Help me, axis. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that word today. Anyway.
Yeah.
It does happen. Oh, this could be funny. So anyway, for lack of oxygen, there you go. But the thing is that he was, when he returned back to the airport, one of these objects went underneath this fuselage, and it collide with the plane, and causing him not to be able to land immediately because he had to fix his landing wheels. But once he landed, and they immediately had him examined, and he was fine. He wasn't on drugs. He wasn't on alcohol. He passed thoroughly. Only his story was this one that was publicized. Now, he was like Ted said, he was a no nonsense guy. In fact, he wasn't never really he really never paid attention to the whole UFO mystery. But once he had this encounter, it just changed his life. And then he also had an encounter with the MIBs. There's one case here that where they threatened him and they told him not to say anything. So we get some interesting cases, but this is one of many that we've been working with.
Isn't that fascinating? And it really goes to show you how terrified these pilots are when they encounter something that they have no reference point for. And I think that it's important to talk about this so that people understand that, this is a very real phenomenon.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's our mission with NARCAP, and our whole purpose in doing what we do is to lift that stigma as far as we can, so we can actually collect some data. And I want to encourage anybody out there that's a pilot or knows anybody that's a pilot or an air traffic controller that has a story to tell, that they can contact us and speak to us confidentially about it. We don't want to lose the data. We need that information. So if anybody out there at earshot knows somebody that needs to talk about this, feel free. They can contact me, and we can keep it absolutely confidential, but we would really like to get that information. It's very important.
It is very important.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Asphyxia. That's the word I wanted to say.
Well, good job, Ruben.
That's it. Asphyxia.
Well, Ted, have aloha to you, and I'm looking forward to working with you and Erica. And there's a lot to do here, of course, with NARCAP. So
yes, Ruben, I thank you. Like I said, you're one of my dear friends, and you've been really helpful. And I'm just excited for you to be my friend and teach me all that you know. So, I can't wait. And I'll talk to you this week, Ruben. I'll give you a call.
All right. Well, we'll have to teach me my English pronunciation on words.
Well, I might be the wrong person for that job, but you never know.
All right.
Thanks
well, take
for calling
care,
in, Ruben.
Lucky man being down in Hawaii. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, that was fun to have Ruben call in. He's a great man. But,
yeah, he's been a big help with NARCAP since, like he said, 2004. He's been our Spanish language coordinator and has helped us when we put together our agreements with SFAA and a lot of our contacts in South America. Ruben's been right there to assist, and has been a team player throughout, and wish him nothing but luck with his books and his work with NOAA and so on. It's all good stuff.
It is good stuff. So thanks for letting him call in and chat with us. And now I want to just talk a little bit about some of the hot spots that you have been to, because you have seen some amazing things in your research. And I know that you went to a particular location with Erling Strand, and that was quite an interesting experience. I believe that he said it was like Hestal on crack or something. There was some sort of statement like that he was just blown away.
Steroids.
Oh, steroids. Okay, that was steroids.
Yeah.
Sorry. Jeez, I better get the drug reference right. Are you kidding me?
It's the vernacular of the times, I suppose. So yeah, I met Erling and another researcher out at this site in I believe it was 2003. 2002, 2003, somewhere like that. I've been back to it several times since, and it's very interesting. People use the term Earth lights a lot, but I don't think anybody knows what that means. And the things that we were looking at were very interesting, and in some cases a bit provocative. And there are sites like this all around the world, apparently. We're becoming more aware of them all the time as we continue our inquiry around them. Massimo Teodorani has been doing some really good work on this stuff. He was involved with the research at Hessdalen, was a project lead at the EMBLA study at Hessdalen in 2001. And I have a lot of respect for this guy. He writes very good papers, and he's done some really good work and a lot of good field work. And he's in the process of doing some more field work, and I think he's probably going to be hitting that site and several others that he's been to before that we're both aware of. He wrote a preliminary study on that particular location in 2003, an optical study that's pretty good work. Unusual things there, definitely. We've seen light phenomena out there that are your typical balls of light in different colors. We've seen them merge together or come apart, come to or leave the facility vertically, more or less. We've seen other types of phenomena that are discharging out of the ground. We've seen stable phenomena that are repeating over and over again at some frequency that you end up seeing them in the same location over years. All you have to do is be there when they're deciding to display. Roll of 5 red lights is what I'm referring to on the rim of the canyon there. There's extensive rock art around the site, native rock art, layers and layers of it, which kind of suggests that the native people have been looking at this place for a very long time. There's some other sociological markers around it that kind of indicate that the place is a little special and a little different. And I think one of the real interesting factors is how the information itself about the place has stayed isolated to the place itself. That to me is kind of intriguing. That it's not far from a major university and that has an atmospheric physics department, and yet it's never even been referenced near as I can tell. So. Very interesting, very interesting. And these sites there are a number of them around the world where these light phenomena are documented. And I'm not sure anybody really has a handle on what they are. Some people say piezoelectric or crystalline or other types of electricity or discharge phenomena. But it doesn't really cover the coherence and the durations of some of these phenomena or their behaviors. So.
Where else?
More work needs to be done.
It does. Where else? I mean, you've got the Marfa Lights, Hessdalen. Where else? What are the other areas that you find particularly interesting?
Brownie Mountain, Hanford in Washington, Brownie Mountain in North Carolina. There's a site in the Caucasus. There's a site on Sri Lanka. There's a site in Thailand and Cambodia where lights come out of the river every year on the same day. There are a number of these types of places where light phenomena are seen. Chocolate Mountain in Southern California that seem to be kind of regional. They stay close to the area. They're seen kind of consistently in the same area. Mount Shasta, if you go up to Northern California. Some of the stuff may be related to volcanism or other types of natural things that we aren't too well aware of. The CIPH group under Renzo Cabasi have been looking at this earthquake, lighting displays that seem to be related to earthquakes and seismic activity or volcanism. Sakurajima volcano in Japan seems to have some of this going on. Popocatépetl in Mexico, as far as light phenomena, but there are other things that are seen that are a little harder to explain. So yeah, there are a lot of places where unusual light phenomena are seen, but because people aren't really allowed to talk about it freely, there doesn't seem to be and there isn't a research grants lined up to go find out about weird light phenomena. Then there doesn't seem to be a lot of science moving with it.
And that is such a shame. I mean, because this to me is the most puzzling and fascinating thing that I could ever want to focus on. So I don't understand how mainstream science couldn't want to look at this and study this.
Well, mainstream science is kind of a catch-all phrase too, because true scientists are curious. They're just curious, and there's a method of collecting information to a point where you have knowledge that you can feel is fairly dependable. That's the philosophy of science, and some people who are trained in science actually have engaged that and have it at work, and others are teachers or testers and they operate with bias and have opinions that limit them from doing what curiosity might drive them to do, and that makes them like everybody else, I would suppose. But if a corporation isn't supporting the research, that it isn't going to happen through the schools. Erwin's a good example of this. He's run this work as an engineer out of Ostwald College, and he sort of made a side project of educating students from the school there on it. But he's an outlier.
That is groundbreaking. I mean, that really is a special thing that they have done over there.
Yeah, 20 years of it, and it's very good work. You can go to the Hessdalen.org site and see real-time captures of UAP. Of the various kinds, very interesting stuff, and some of it is a bit provocative as far as the ETH goes, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. So,
yes, it is. It is, and it's just fascinating to see that. And it's like I was saying earlier, it's fascinating that people that are quote unquote researchers in the field don't even understand that this place exists, or the research the Project Hessdalen has done, or NARCAP. Is even around. That blows my mind. But, that's okay. That's why we're just going to
part of this, too, is that, NARCAP, I've never really pandered to ufology, okay? I've never really sought out the attention of ufology. I've considered that kind of the wrong direction. We need the attention of the aviation community. We need the attention of the politicians and the businesses that support the aviation industry. We need the attention of pilots and those most affected by the phenomenon themselves. And if we're spending our time entertaining the UFO community, then we're not really doing our jobs. I don't really have the resources to do both, you know.
Right.
And ufology has its own opinions on things. It's a cottage industry made up of opinions. And the buying and selling of opinions and ideas, and yet in the end, it's just kind of this ever churning pot of no new information.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
And that's not to say that there haven't been some good researchers in the field throughout. I'm not denigrating anybody in particular, but I'm pointing out that the paradigm in general is unhelpful, and it's not, you know, coalescing into an effort that's going to resolve this problem of what UAP actually are and are not.
Absolutely, and I understand that completely. And the more I work in this field, the more I understand that. And but I do, you know that there are so many people that want to research this, that want to look into it, that want to become advocates for this type of thing. And I think that they've just been fed the wrong information for so long, that it would be a breath of fresh air to have something that was actually of merit.
Well, you know, those people are out there, and you know, hey, if you're listening and you're somebody who's, you know, got that itch, you know, to be involved with this and can exercise some discipline and critical thinking, a team player, I mean, a lot of us need help. We need volunteer members. I need administrative staff. I've got plenty of researchers. What I need are people that can carry the ball on the organizational and corporate level into new territory. And that should be terrifically interesting to people who are looking at trends in the study here.
Absolutely.
Because we've got tons of cases. I mean, Project Blue Book has 12,000 cases in its file, okay? And there's thousands more, and we've got 3,500 cases in our case files. It's not the cases anymore at this point. It's what's done as far as the organization itself and how it moves the information through the larger paradigm of aviation in our case.
And we'll talk about that on the other side. We're getting ready for a break. So anyway, I'm Erica Lukes. Yes, and Ted, thank you so much for being here. We will catch you in a little bit.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
3 guys, no ties.
So is this attack linked to ISIS, or are they just taking responsibility because they're just trying to scare the planet?
No, they're taking responsibility of it.
So how do you take care of this problem? I mean, what can...
You're asking me that question?
Yeah, I mean, what is the president really going to do on this part?
Put a gun in everybody's hand.
3 guys, no ties, Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we take the KCOR Digital Radio Network off the grid and go deep inside the Paranormal Vault. Jump on the elevator and come take the ride down the rabbit hole of reality with BK Mojave and The Watcher as they unlock the vault and dust off some of their classified paranormal case files even the government doesn't know about. The Paranormal Vault, Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the one show our secret government fears will speak the truth.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Want to take a ride?
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everybody, to my last segment tonight on just warming you guys up for the Fantopia Friday. Tina Marie is next on Restricted Airspace, and then Solaris Blue Raven on Hyperspace. It's going to be a great night, so grab a margarita and just, get in your pajamas and hang out and listen to some very brilliant women talking about all of these amazing topics. My guest now is somebody that all of you need to know. Ted Rowe is the executive director of NARCAP. You can go find out about NARCAP at narcap.org. If you donate to or become a member of any organization, this is the organization to support because of their diligent research. And I just have found out valuable information with regards to UAP that I'm researching. Ted, welcome back, and thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, and we were talking about the place that you and Erling visited and some of the other hot spots in the world where you're seeing these sorts of phenomena. What do you feel, and I don't want to put you too much out there, but what do you feel this is?
Well, it's an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
That was very close.
How's that for tactical?
That was good. That was very good.
See, this is the whole thing. Speculation. When what we really need are facts, and the facts are that unusual light phenomena are occurring in different areas. We don't have an understanding of what that mechanism is. We need to look more closely, and we have to and we have to let the data tell us what it is. Right now, we don't know. And that I can just say that with confidence. I don't know what it is. It's unusual. It's interesting. It's provocative. For example, we were sitting a mile from the site looking at it from across a riverbed. It was probably 115, 120 degrees. And we looked to our left. There's a flashing. Turn the Sony Handycam on, looking to the left, and we see what appears to be a shimmering rectangle of lightning coming up the riverbank. And it's well below the rim of the bluffs and everything, so it's not a reflection. It's down in the riverbed. and coming towards us from 3/4 of a mile away or so. And then at one point, there's a discharge between it and the ground, and it comes to a point where it's right between us and the site, right directly in front of us, and then it just disappears. We turn the camera off. We go back, we take a look, 30 frames per second. What we see, instead of a rectangle of light, is a single bar of light vibrating at a rate that makes it look like a rectangle. Okay? So now I'm describing it to you. What is it? I don't know what that is. I have no idea. I don't think the conditions were right for sheet lightning. I don't think it was lightning. I don't know what that was. It was an unidentified aerial phenomenon. And how we get from I don't know to I know is by admitting we don't know and hold that. Hold that until we know. Keep going, keep documenting, keep looking, pay attention. Don't speculate too far other than to look for viable research arcs, to hypothesize a little, but don't, just because you can't figure out doesn't mean that it's aliens,
Right.
And then if the data tells you it's aliens and there's no other conclusion to come to, then I suppose it was aliens, but you have to arrive there rationally. The case with the Minot B-52 that I talked about earlier in the show, this is a situation where either it is or isn't. Now, the Air Force explanation for it was that it was the moon, and it was not the moon. They got gun radar data. There were concurrent failures of electronics and communication systems. Something was seen on the ground that wasn't there before or after the incident. And unless you can account for all these factors, you haven't resolved the case. So that is an unresolved case, and the Air Force opted to call it the moon and move on. How important is that? If that was an actual extraterrestrial incursion that was witnessed by military personnel that the Air Force saw and had the data for and passed on, how safe should anybody feel?
Right.
Or how confident should anybody be in the idea that the ETH isn't a relevant explanation? Some cases either are or they aren't. They really can't be. I can't say that, where there's room for me to say that a ball of light is a natural phenomenon, an object that's detected on radar and being watched by the stewards of atom bombs, I got to kind of take that seriously too,
Yes.
for what it might imply.
So, that's a wonderful thought and explanation on that. And I know, you and I have talked about the importance of your own personal practice with regards to keeping yourself in check and then disciplining yourself and everything. And you are very proficient with martial arts and meditation. And so how do you incorporate that into what you're doing with your research?
Well, I try to integrate my meditation with everything. My training is in insight meditation, which lies sort of at the core of the Buddhist teaching. So it's Buddhist insight meditation. The root of it is called Satipatthana, which is the 4 pillars of awareness, basically. You're training your awareness and mindfulness to be paying attention to what's going on around you and not to have a bias that is projected out into reality, but to sort of eliminate it and just let reality exist and be as objective as you can be with an objective reality playing out in front of you. In this way, you can stay rational. You can live with what you know, what you don't know, and what you don't know, you don't know. To quote Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, the only way to really deal with this, I think, and function well is to be very careful with your head. There are some real no man's lands in here, and you can get dragged down the rabbit hole with a lot of different types of ideas around the UFO situation. And if you don't practice good mental hygiene, you're going to end up being in delusion. And that's really what the purpose of awareness is for, is to eliminate delusion. So we train and we study to do that. And I use martial arts. They're Buddhist yogas. I practice Japanese sword drawing, which is Iaido. And these are Buddhist yogas that are intended to help you achieve what the Buddha achieved. And their practices and training awareness is what they really are. The term Iaido actually means the way of always being prepared. or the way of always being in a state of response. So it's a particular type of presence that transcends sleep or anything else. And I was driven to it through my own experiences with UAP. Eventually, that's how I met Dr. Haynes, was in reporting a case to NASA Ames Research Center, and then talking to Dr. Haynes and eventually being involved. He worked there, and eventually being involved with his project. And then but I wasn't well with my own experience. I was very uncomfortable with it. So there was a lot of personal work to be done, trauma work. And then eventually I learned that meditation, and insight meditation in particular, was the way to engage it. And once I took that on, then the tables turned, and I was no longer a victim of my reality, but a participant in it.
And it's so interesting that you had, an experience like this, and yet you are able to, unlike a lot of people in the field, differentiate and hold all of what happened to you personally, you put that in a different box, which is important. And I struggle with that sometimes too as well. It's just trying to take my own personal bias out of my research.
Well, it's critical, and to that extent, I mean, I don't guide the research for NARCAP, so if it's not objective, that's not my fault. I'm not signing off on research initiatives. That's the research branch's effort, and I do everything I can to support it through the administrative side as the XO. But my experiences make a hard point on the spear. No pilot's going to come to me and try and tell me something and be rejected because I thought it was stupid. Responsible, reasonable people see unusual things, as do the rest of us.
Right.
And we're not here to second guess those guys. We're here to help them, and we do that by holding our objectivity and letting the data speak for itself. And if it turns out that there's a prosaic explanation, then we call it that. If we think we've come up against something that is a black project, we back away. There's nothing good comes from calling something a UAP if it isn't a UAP. Right. In those cases that really ring true to what the UAP are and fit our definition, then we advocate to learn more about those. And to walk in this kind of no man's land between two worlds of, what you've experienced and what's in your own nervous system versus what the paradigm can handle, that calls for judgment. You have to have judgment. The world doesn't necessarily need to hear your story. You don't need to get up on a pedestal. If I got up on a podium and started talking about my stuff, I don't think it would help NARCAP. I don't think it would help me. And right. I don't think it would help the study, even though it would be another lock in the sack of stories about these things, that at some point in the future, if it all falls out in the wash, then there's, my rock will be in there too. But I don't think that's the way we get forward with this. We need to grow up. We need to be disciplined. We need to follow the rules and develop the information and be rational about it. And we can do that provided we're mindful. We train ourselves to do so.
Wow. I mean, those are things that I feel I personally need to hear, and that helps me a lot. And I think that is really true. And we need to be mindful of that as we delve into this topic, and there's so many great people. I just think of my listeners tonight. They all want answers, and they all want to do the best. And most of them have had experiences. And a lot of times you want to share them because you don't know what else to do with them. And you just want somebody to validate your experience.
Well, that's the truth of it. And for some of us, there's even trauma involved. It was more than just a light in the sky, and we're very uncomfortable with the reality that we have to exist in based on our knowing and our lack of knowing. But I would tell all of your listeners out there and everybody that's in that lack of knowing space, hold that space. Don't decide to believe something because it sounds good or it makes you comfortable. Hold with the fact you don't know and wait. You're not alone. We're all going through this. And, contribute, help us, help NARCAP, help some of the organizations that are actually moving the arguments forward. Instead of spending your money on UFO conferences necessarily, why not make some donations to the groups that are actually doing good work? help us out so that we can carry this forward. And I'm happy to talk a little bit about what we're doing in that sense as well, along with this problem of how we go at the extraterrestrial hypothesis and as an aspect of the data that we're dealing with.
That would be great. I would love that because I know that we all want to be involved. I really feel that people need a good source of information and they want to help.
Well, I need help. I need volunteer help. I need funding. And I need administrative help. So anybody that wants to step up and thinks that they can participate on the strategic planning side of things and the execution on that side, I'm more than willing to talk to them and give them a chance. I have some rather large initiatives coming up, as you know. A lot of this is arising as we started the show out of the development of research agreements between scientific organizations that are studying different aspects of this, both at the government level and in the higher science, the observational sciences. Not so much abductees, but more people who are getting instrumented data and trying to get a good handle on the external phenomena versus the human intelligence around it. All of that's going to... that's kind of correlating. Go ahead.
No. So we go to narcap.org to donate to NARCAP and to read all about all of your technical reports and to educate us. And then if we want to volunteer, we would go to the same narcap.org to send our information. Okay.
And contact us. For example, right now what I need is a social media manager. I need somebody, a volunteer, or several that are willing to help move NARCAP's message through Twitter and through the other Reddit and some of the other social media platforms out there and help us maintain a presence in the public eye as we expand our holdings. We have a branch in Germany. We've got a branch through Mr. Don Ledger in Canada. We have working relationships in Europe now, and we need help traveling and making our appointments and getting face-to-face as we need to with our counterparts in Europe. So...
And this sounds like such an exciting thing to do. And it's just, I think sometimes you can kind of waste your time volunteering in different places where you're not really, your own volunteer time isn't necessarily appreciated or utilized to the best of your abilities. And I think it's really great to find organizations where you can do that. And I think that's wonderful. So if any of you have these skills that can be valuable to NARCAP, please get a hold of Ted and get a hold of NARCAP and volunteer, because this is really important.
There's the contact us, and there's also a phone number on the website, and you can reach me with that pretty directly. So if you're interested in doing work for us, or if you're a pilot or air controller that has something to tell us, if you need to talk to me, feel free. I try to respond to everybody as promptly as I can.
And you're good that way. What else? What other things can you tell us just on a personal level as far as keeping ourselves grounded and then finding disciplines to help us with that grounding so we can really keep a handle on reality? Well,
the first step really with grounding yourself is to come into the moment, to be present, to deal with something that's actually real in your reality. And I train my students, my swordsmen and my meditators to either listen to their breath or listen to their heartbeat and learn how to do that. And notice that when your mind runs away from it, you can corral it and bring it back and make it listen to your heartbeat again and not do anything but listen to your heartbeat. Because anytime your mind leaves that focus of your heartbeat, it's delving into delusion. It's going into memories, it's going into thoughts, it's going into comfortable spaces or whatever, and these are all delusional. They don't exist. Your mind is just spinning out, while reality continues with that breath and that heartbeat. So we return back to the breath, we return back to the heartbeat, and we cultivate that ability to sit with it until we can do it for hours without a thought. And just simply be present and see what's in front of us. And as your awareness improves, you're going to realize that you're aware of things that a lot of people around you are not. And my swordsman have found that out, definitely. So it's helpful. And then beyond that, it's helpful because it allows you to get that space away from the fear and the rumination and the stress that comes from having these experiences and wanting to be helpful, and at the same time not knowing what to do, who to do it with, and maybe not having the skills needed to even be able to help. That way you can at least be present with it. Your heart rate will slow down. You get that first grip on reality, what is real. What's real is your breath.
Thank you. That is very important. And that just brings me kind of to another point. Sometimes when you experience these types of things, I mean, it borders on the paranormal. And I think for me personally, we need to accept that we don't know anything about anything with regards to the paranormal, to the UAP, and we need to be able to accept everything and look at everything as a piece of the larger puzzle.
There's an old samurai proverb that says, expect nothing, be ready for anything. Well, how are you ready for anything? By not dwelling or being surprised by anything. You sit and you watch and you see reality unfold. You notice how your mind draws towards it or pulls away from it. You look carefully at what's going on around you. You avoid judgments. You avoid duality of good and bad. You find an equanimity, a balance with yourself and inside and out, so that when these things occur, you can look at them as a master would look at them rather than as a victim would look at them. It takes time to work through that. I'd suggest going through trauma therapy, get some EMDR or something else if you're really damaged or fixated or obsessive. Work that through, and then come out on the other side with the understanding that you're not going to be the same person you were when you started. And I will say that this study shaped me in a lot of ways. It taught me logic and rationality in a serious way, and that didn't necessarily that didn't make the subject any less interesting or any less valid by learning how to become a logical, rational person. In fact, it just emphasized even more how important this is and how necessary it is we handle it correctly and get to the bottom of it.
Wow. I just have to say that, like I have been telling everybody, people that listen to my past shows, that this type of work and reading the work that you did with Project Sphere, everything that you have done is such a contribution. And if people really want to know about this and research it, then we have to know about NARCAP, we have to know about Project Heshtal, and we have to know about things that aren't necessarily mainstream, quote unquote, ufology. This is very serious. This is very scientific research that people are trying to do. And there are some things that we're trying to build that will have a global impact. And I think that that's what I want to do. And I know that's what NARCAP is doing and what you're doing personally, Ted. And I think that is really what is needed to move things forward.
Well, thank you very much, and I definitely have several initiatives in gear, and I need some help. I'm putting together some working groups, and the right people are welcome to participate. It takes a little while, and if you think you got it, step up. I'd like to, at least know. The bottom line of this for your listeners is that with respect to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, if you guys think that Earth is being visited by extraterrestrials, and it isn't necessarily a visit. That's just something we call it. It could be an incursion. And if you really think that's what's going on, then become serious about it. Don't entertain delusion. Don't entertain hyperbole, beyond extrapolation kind of ideas, or mythologies, or the current guru of the week who claims to have all the answers this week, which ufology seems to produce every month or so.
Right.
Give up on that stuff and sit back, accept that you don't know, and start working with rationality and logic, and those of us that are also doing it. And there's some direction there. There's an answer to this, and we can get to it. And it's going to surprise us all. It's not going to be what any of us expected it to be, probably. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. That's not really the issue. What we want is the answer. And we need discipline to get there, and some vision. Dealing with the idea of extraterrestrial incursions takes more than you might imagine in terms of understanding the whole situation and the kind of problem that represents. So.
Well, I am grateful for all of your advice and all of everything that you have brought to this show tonight. I'm this was just staggering to me. So, Ted, thank you for being here.
Well, Erica, it was my pleasure. My pleasure. And it was nice hearing from Ruben also. And I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. Good job on your study with Bill.
Thank you.
Your aviation work there. I look forward to hearing more about it. And just keep going, girl.
I will. You know it. I will.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, have a wonderful night. Go look at the ocean for me.
Aloha and mahalo nui loa.
Aloha. Everyone, thank you for listening tonight. I'm Erica Lukes, and it is always a pleasure to be here, especially to see the chat room, all of you there supporting me and listening to this. This is really, truly where we need to go. We need to have dedicated, thoughtful research with regards to UAP. And next week, I'm going to be talking to somebody, Chuck Zukowski, who has researched the field for a long, long time. So I hope you join me. Find me on Facebook at UFO Classified. You can also check out my website, ufoclassified.com, and make sure you're sticking around for the rest of Ladies' Night, because Tina Marie is coming up and she is going to rock it out tonight. She's got an April Fool's show going on for you, so definitely going to be very cool. And she's talking to Ian Brooker, who will be on the first hour of Restricted Airspace. And then Solaris Blue Raven's coming up, so you won't want to miss that. Hyperspace. 3 lovely ladies on KCOR. Thanks for being here. Have a safe weekend, and we will catch you next Friday.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.